Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we are going to talk about Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. This is being released on the 3rd of October and it's a brand new, I would call it, new adult romantasy, and it seems to be the first one in a series. And yeah, and I'm gonna try to review it after the best of my abilities, but honestly a bit hard one for me to talk about because I'm afraid I've come across as not how I want to come across. So this one follows Talasin, who is a soldier in this war that was going on forever. It's basically the Hurricane Wars under this regime by the Night Emperor. And the Night Emperor has a really harsh regime and she's been working against it basically all her life. And the Emperor has one son whose name is Alaric, and she keeps crossing paths with him and they're obviously on different sides. And then other things are revealed about our main character's past, which will affect how and what happens in this war, in this relationship between these two characters. And that is like the basic setup. It is inspired a lot, it says so itself, by Filipino legends and myths. And it's kind of set in like a world inspired by the Philippines in general. So what I struggle with in this book is that I thought that I was gonna get kind of a epic fantasy set in this, you know, like Filipino inspired world, Asian inspired setting, etc. And we have this acknowledgement in the beginning which basically says behind the Hurricane Wars. It's written by the author and it's like a little, I was going to say essay or at least text in the beginning saying that the author has taken inspiration from a family of like the wars, the occupation in the Philippines, and getting like a very like, I was going to say, impression about how this world came to be and how this story came to be, which made me instantly think of like all the Asian inspired books I really enjoyed, like for example Poppy War. I didn't think it was going to be as brutal as Poppy War, but it was like a book that came into mind and I was just like, in my head it became a book within that genre than anything else because of this cover letter we literally had in the beginning of the book, and it turned out to be very different. They might be on me because like I came in with certain like expectations, but I didn't have those until I literally read the introduction for the book. So I don't know, but either way, it didn't turn out to be a kind of like epic fantasy at all. It was very much a romantasy or fantasy romance, as I like to say, which like, again, it's a totally different genre and then becomes a totally different story. And I do think that that is a genre I have previously enjoyed a lot. I really liked Fourth Wing, I really liked The Brid Kingdom, etc. I have read others in the genre I haven't enjoyed as much. But it is like that with all genres. You can't like every book in every genre, just like a mystery book. So I needed to adjust my expectations going into it, but at that point I'd kind of lost a bit interest in the story already, and that is mostly because of how it is written. I didn't like how it built its world, how it built its characters. It wasn't capturing for me and it didn't deliver any kind of world building that made me interested in this world that I initially was very into at once when I started the book because of the introduction, of what I heard about it. And even what I think as what I've seen of promotions for the book, I do think that I haven't seen personally that they promoted it as a fantasy romance, but more like an epic fantasy with a romance subplot, which like most fantasy do have. And I just feel tricked by myself. But again, I feel like that sounds really harsh and like, oh my god, you didn't like the book just because it gave you the wrong impression in the beginning. It sounds very like, that's what I'm trying to say, that it can sound very weird. But overall, it didn't even deliver in the romance for me. You have these two characters, as I said, that are on very different sides. Certain things happen to them that makes them, you know, be attracted to each other. Like, what can I tell you? I just didn't believe it. I just didn't even get how they started to like meet up so much in the first place. It was like, for me, the impression I got was like they were literally walking in the jungle and I kept meeting each other for no reason at all. And that might just be with like the way it was written and like I might have missed something, but I was like, isn't he a prince? Why isn't he like in the palace? Why is he in the middle of the jungle? Again, can't have missed something there. So I didn't get their interactions. I didn't get it initially from the beginning. And then a certain thing happens that they need to do. I don't want to spoil it. But I was just sitting there like, really? And I just didn't care, like, at all. And then we had this whole book, you know, like, okay, fine, it's a fantasy romance. That doesn't mean it needs to be, like, smut in it. Like, it doesn't need to be spicy. It has become very popular to have spice in books. And again, I'm not a person who minds it. But again, with how the impression I got from it, I didn't expect it to be a spicy book. And then suddenly we had a sex scene, and I was just like... Because then I felt we were in an entirely different genre, and then I felt I missed something completely, because I thought that we were just like Shadow and Bone, you know, it's kind of a fantasy romance, not completely, but a bit, but it doesn't have explicit sex in it, but it's still like a book with a lot of romance, but then also like a world, you know. And then suddenly we were a completely different kind of book, because then we went over to the other side of the genre, you know, like I just said, like Forkwing, Witch Kingdom, Sarah J. Maas, etc. But I didn't expect it to be in this book, and I thought it was a different kind of book altogether. And that's what I keep saying. And I feel like even if I ignore the fact that I didn't think that it was going to be what it was, it just wasn't well enough relationship for me to care about them. I need much more slow burn. I need much more better connection between them. And just how things were revealed about the main character, I was just like, what? And just the plot in general wasn't that interesting, and the world wasn't well built. So overall, I just didn't enjoy my time at all. I was very disappointed. The cover is stunning. The idea of the book sounds so cool. I love an Asian inspired fantasy, and I love myself a fun fantasy romance, but it didn't deliver on either of the things that I thought it would be, and then it was something else, and it didn't even deliver on that part either. And I know a lot of people have already enjoyed this, so I feel like I'm like maybe not in like the majority here, but I still like I am going to read the book and say how I feel. But basically, I expected a epic fantasy inspired world, and we got kind of a romance that I wasn't even cheering for. It was trying to balance being Papa War, but at the same time being a Sarah J. Maas book, and I just don't think it managed that balance well. And I do think that you can totally do that, because obviously, as an example, Sarah J. Maas has loads of world building and like character development and characters you care about in the books. I'm not saying that it's not possible to do both, but this didn't deliver in any of those regards, and I just ended up not enjoying myself. Also, I feel like it is contradicting, because I have this publisher letter that I got with the arc, and it says literally in the beginning, in the vein of Sarah J. Maas, R.F. Kuang, Olive Blake, and Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I'm like, so we have Sarah J. Maas and R.F. Kuang that writes completely different books, literally like pitched in the same sentence, which means that I'm not far off here. And then it says like all like the buzzwords it is supposed to have. Because when I hear names like Sarah J. Maas and Jennifer L. Armentrout, etc., I have a certain genre in my mind, and I love that genre. I will read it. But then, as I said, I also have R.F. Kuang in my mind, so the mix-up is just confusing to me. But underneath it says, Guanzon was born and lives in the Philippines and infuses her fantasy world with South Asian mythology and culture. So I just feel like, again, that balance of like, then you need to warble this better to be able to be what it promises to be, and it needs to build a romance better if it wants to be that part of the genre as well. And as I said, it just doesn't do this for me, and I hope I make sense of this. I know I sound super negative, but overall I didn't really like this book, so why will I sound positive? I wanted to cheer for it. I wanted to really enjoy it. Hello, it has a super pretty purple cover, but it just didn't deliver on either sides, as I think I said 5 times, of what it could have been. But again, I've seen a lot of other people enjoy it. I'm not the artist for this. I wanted a better built world, and I wanted a better built romance, and I didn't get either. And I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. It doesn't deserve a 1 star, but I just didn't find it enjoyable, and I wish it was honestly just written a bit better for me. But will I read the rest? Probably. It says here actually it would be... Did I just read the word trilogy, or was it just in my mind? Yeah, debut in a planned trilogy. And obviously I also know that when people say, oh my god, a new Lee Bardugo on a book, it never actually is. So like using the author name is only of course a great boss. But it was just, again, with what it was inside, the introduction, and then no delivering on either side of what they wanted. So yeah, that's my thoughts, my quick, I hope it made sense thoughts. I feel like also, again, it's not in the majority here, but that is just how I felt, and that is what a review is supposed to reflect, I guess. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Leave a storm, hurricane emoji down below, and you should see me soon in a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!